Our Mass today celebrates the feast of Corpus Christi, which is the body and blood of Christ. This feast was established in the 13th century by Pope Urban IV. He established this as a universal celebration which commemorates the institution of the Holy Eucharist. This commemoration was set because the Eucharist contains the spiritual wealth of the Church, Christ himself. Vatican II further defined the Eucharist as the source and summit of Christian life. So we can see why this feast is important to us. It belies all our beliefs as a church, as a people of God. In today's gospel, we hear of Jesus feeding over 5,000 men. The children and women were not counted in those days. We may focus on the fact that they started with 5 loaves and 2 fish, that miraculously the loaves and fish multiplied, and when the crowd was satisfied, they had many baskets of food left over. That truly is a miracle. Another point, however, is that Jesus fed all these people as he was the source of the food. The food was multiplied, fed everyone to fullness, and there were even leftovers. Jesus uses this as a metaphor of what was to come, that he will feed us with the food of life everlasting, his body, his blood, as the Eucharist. This is what will be here for us all, even after we have left this world, so that there will be more for the people that come after us. You could even say that the Eucharist that is put back into the tabernacle after communion, after we have finished our Eucharistic meal, is the leftovers for the next who are to come. The Eucharist is the meal we receive for our souls. This makes us part of the body of Christ, and that's where Jesus wants us all to be. Following Jesus' example of feeding many, we too can feed others in different ways. Each week in our bulletin, the Cathedral Emergency Service Food Pantry asks for donation of food, or if you don't have time to shop, for money. This food goes to feed those in need, including children. During the school year, the children are able to get nutritious lunches free. Once the summer vacation starts, they're at home with the same empty cupboards that were there during the school year. Donating to the CES Food Pantry may not be literally sitting on a hillside feeding the people as Jesus did, but buying food and bringing it to church is feeding the people from your generosity. It helps those who would be without, and this continuous giving is showing how we all relate to each other in the body of Christ. When we are part of the body of Christ, we realize that we are part of a bigger picture. It's not just I or me, it's us and we. I think the we in this body of Christ is exemplified in the personage of Cameron Lyle. Cameron is a track and field athlete at the University of New Hampshire. He was a typical sophomore a few years ago when he walked into the campus Memorial Union building just checking things out. A volunteer from the National Marrow Donor Program asked him to have a swab taken of his mouth for testing, and the results would be placed into the national database to determine if he could ever be a bone marrow donor for someone who requires a transplant. He agreed to the 5-minute test, and his results, among many others, were sent to that data bank. Cameron didn't give another thought to this. He went about his life, continuing to compete in shot put, weight throw, hammer throw, and discus for his team, the University of New Hampshire Wildcats. Throughout his years at UNH, he had won silver many times, but never gold. But with his senior year beginning, he felt that was his year. So, it became the spring season of Cameron Lyle's senior year, the one where he was sure to win the gold. One day, his phone rang, and it was a representative from the National Marrow Donor Program asking Cameron if he could have some blood work done to see if he was a match for a man with leukemia, as his swab came up showing he was potentially a match. Cameron had the blood work done, and they found he was a perfect match for this 28-year-old man who only had about 6 months to live without a transplant. Cameron didn't think twice, but consented to the surgery. He found the surgery would be invasive and painful. The surgery would make him miss out on a large part of his spring season. This, in turn, he realized, would not allow him to compete in the final competition of his senior year. He wouldn't be able to get the gold. When Cameron went to speak to his coach about all this, he realized the truth in what his coach had told him and knew his decision to donate was right. Our team is not the Wildcats, but our team is the whole human race, Cameron's coach told him. Cameron said that was what made him decide that his answer was an immediate, "I'll do it." And the Catholic Church does approve of organ donation. In his addressing of the First International Congress of the Society for Organ Sharing in 1991, Pope John Paul II stated, "It's a concrete gesture of human solidarity and a projection beyond death of the sort of self-giving love that society needs." Self-giving love. That says it all. Cameron Lyle demonstrated that self-giving love. This self-giving love is what emanates from us when we are part of the body of Christ. We are all part of the bigger picture. Understanding this is proper so that we know that when we receive the host, we are not receiving a placebo of Christ. We are receiving Christ himself. Once we have received him, we have become his, and he has become ours. We are one with Christ through his self-giving love to us. Through the Eucharist, the one source of Catholic life and our summit of life after death. Human bodies need the food we donate to the pantry to keep alive. Recipients need the organs we donate to keep their bodies healthy and alive as well. Our souls need the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ, to live eternally. Jesus feeds the world, then and now, through the Eucharist.